How's it going, guys? Mr. Holton here, and today we're going to return to the universe of Mass Effect to explore 5 possible theories or predictions that may come true for the upcoming game. Now, I've already covered some of these theories on my channel, so if you want to check those out in their full length, I'll be putting up notifications in the upper right corner here and in the description for said videos. But without further ado, let's go. Number 1. The Geth returns. Alright guys, so let's start off with something fresh. Just a few days ago, BioWare dropped this awesome official poster for the next Mass Effect, which I proceeded to make a video about as soon as I knew about it. This poster may not look like much at first, but after analyzing it, the outline of a Geth is clearly visible as you look closely at the crater. There's even cracks that seem to represent the glare from the light that the Geth's head gives off. Then when we zoom in, there's the profile of a Geth lying half buried in the sand, so the question becomes, why are we seeing this and what could it mean? Well, the first answer is pretty obvious. The Geth served as villains in the first Mass Effect, so it's not an impossibility that they'll return as villains. But this is highly unlikely, simply because of the fact that Shepard either brokered peace with them or annihilated them entirely with the help of the Quarian fleet. And since we can assume that Shepard uniting the Geth and the Quarian is the canon choice, the Geth should be gone at this point for reasons I'll discuss later in the video. Chances are that both the Geth and the Quarian will have their roles to play in the next game, because as we zoom in even more, we can see the burnt bodies of 2 Quarians inside the crater. But then, what happened here? Why is there a suspicious looking crater that Liara and friends seem to be walking towards? Well, I might have an idea about that. Which moves us to the next theory. Number 2. The next conflict. One thing that the new Mass Effect game will have to get right is the main source of the next conflict. The Reapers are such memorable villains, not only because of their terrifying appearance, but because of the overwhelming threat they pose to an entire galaxy. And now that they're dealt with, what new type of threat could we encounter? There are several candidates here. Cryo-frozen Protheans that have been cut off for over 50,000 years, waking up to a galaxy that's ripe for conquest, as that is something we know that the Protheans would do. The Yogg rise to power and hijack leadership from the shadows. We know that the Yogg are not only an extreme physical threat, but they can be incredibly intelligent as well. The Shadow Broker was actually proven to be a Yogg whom had taken the throne as the next broker by killing the old one. Maybe we'll see a galactic civil war starting to erupt as old wounds reopen between the species. The Krogan are replenishing their numbers faster than all of the other species, causing unrest between them and everyone else. As we'd rather not see another Krogan rebellion take place, maybe a few select groups outside Rex's leadership are starting to fight for dominance. Members of the Turians, a race with a very militaristic worldview, try to show their strength by taking control of the Citadel, which renews the resentment between them and humanity as the Citadel was stationed above Earth when this happens. Conflicts are starting to rise between the Quarians and the Geth, as the Geth have evolved true intelligence, giving rise to the feelings of love, pride, anger, and perhaps jealousy. The rising tensions come to a breaking point as suddenly a mass accelerator weapon shoots into the surface of Rannoch, and ta-da! A war breaks out again between the 2 races that were thought to be in harmony with each other. And maybe, just maybe, someone or something is pulling the strings that make the puppets dance, something hiding in the darkness of a long-forgotten world. As you can see, this theory is not so much one theory at all. There are simply so many different villains and conflicts that we could see in the future. However, I do believe that a story sort of like this could be a possibility for the future. An investigation that takes us across the galaxy as we try to find out who it is that's pulling the strings of conflict. Which again would let us spread our wings as a true N7 operative, as we investigate threats to the galactic order. Number 3. The Shepard's child theory. So let's continue with one of the more heavily debated theories. The Shepard's child theory poses the question whether Shepard had a child with one of our squad mates in Mass Effect 3, in order for said child to become the next main protagonist. And since we have a number of different species that Commander Shepard can romance, the idea doesn't seem that far-fetched at first, right? But there are several issues with this idea. The first one being that other than the Asari, none of the other species in the Milky Way can produce a child with another species. So if you romanced, say, Tali, Garrus, or Thane, Shepard wouldn't be able to produce a child with either of them. The only ones able to carry a child would have to be Liara or maybe Samara, and any of the human squadmates of course. And even if Liara is the most likely candidate for being the canon romantic interest to Shepard, why, since she's basically pushed upon you in the first Mass Effect and she later becomes a very prominent person throughout the series, it still would completely remove any sense of choice for the player if a romantic interest was forced on your Shepard. But maybe we could still make it work. By having Liara making a copy of Shepard's genes during the final moments before assaulting the Reaper beam on Earth. Liara wouldn't necessarily have to be a romantic interest at all, but it would be kind of weird having Liara making herself pregnant with her best friend, for reasons I think all of us understand. Still, this doesn't mean that BioWare wouldn't go this route since, well, it's looking like they might actually decide on another thing. Namely, number 4, the Destroy ending is canon. Alright, so you might think that this one isn't so much of a theory, but hear me out. BioWare has never publicly stated that Destroy is the actual canon ending to Mass Effect 3, even if the signs are pointing this way. So what are the signs that I'm talking about then? Well, the first one is the obvious end credits scene where Shepard takes a breath before the screen cuts to black. And you unlock this scene after maxing out your war assets and then choosing to destroy the Reapers while talking to the Starchild. Now, just because Shepard survives the explosion on the Citadel, it doesn't necessarily mean that the perfect destroy would have to be the canon one. But as this is the only hidden scene there is, and since perfect destroy needs maximum war assets, I'd say that it's a hint towards it being the canon choice if there ever was one. Of course, then we had the next Mass Effect teaser, where we see the wrecks of ships and a mass relay at one point. Then we move on to the snowy planet where we see dead Reapers lying in the snow. And again, this hints at Destroy being the choice that Shepard made. And while we're talking about Shepard, let's move to the next one. Number 5. Shepard returns. Now this theory is probably the biggest and most popular theory of all of these, and it's not hard to see why. Shepard is the legendary protagonist of the original Mass Effect trilogy. And Shepard has always been celebrated as something more than your standard RPG video game protagonist. Sure, you can decide whether Shepard's male or female and the look of the commander, but overall, Shepard's story remains pretty much the same across the board. And the commander's story is incredibly compelling and engaging. Shepard rises to the occasion as not only the first human Spectre ever, but he or she also tries to prepare the galaxy for the coming war with the galaxy-threatening Reapers, and then ends up leading all the united races against this very existential threat. It's not that hard to see why fans of Mass Effect wants to see Shepard back in action for the next game, and as I've talked about already, there are hints that show that Shepard will return in the future. As I mentioned before, the secret destroy scene is the biggest one. Then we have our love interest refusing to put up Shepard's plaque on the memorial wall, and finally the N7 insignia that Liara finds in the snow in the teaser trailer. Of course, BioWare could pull the greatest bait and switch by not including Shepard at all in the next game. But honestly, that would just cause a huge explosion of outcry from the fandom, so I'm pretty confident that Shepard will return in some shape or form. Alright guys, which one of these theories do you think is the most likely to happen? Could all of them maybe combine and become a story outline for the next game? Leave your thoughts down below. And as always, have a great day guys. Mr. Holton, signing out.